Right now on the National Weather Desk, a powerful coastal storm brings significant flooding and a possible tornado to South Carolina. We'll show you the damage it left behind and where it's going next. The cleanup continues more than a week after tornadoes devastated Middle Tennessee. You'll meet a teen who risked his life to save a woman being swept out to sea. A new report shows the areas of the country people are leaving because of climate change. And we'll share tips on how you can keep your Christmas tree healthy beyond the holiday.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Well, South Carolina bore the brunt of that massive storm, working its way up the East Coast. On Sunday, the system brought significant flooding to the Charleston region and spawned at least one tornado near Myrtle Beach. The water was so deep in downtown Charleston, people walked through the high water just to get to their trucks. In other places, cars got stuck in the water. Now, it was the fourth highest tide in Charleston Harbor history. And all along the coast, massive waves pounded the surf. Victoria Specco was in Georgetown, where the water rose quickly.
In this area, I'm told 7 to 8 inches of rain have fallen over the last few hours, and as you can see, the roads are flooded. We've got cars everywhere that have attempted to make it through and not been successful. This gas station right here I'm standing in has about a couple of inches of water inside, and it's almost knee deep. The gas station owner a little upset because there are no crews out here stopping people from driving through the water, and every time they do, it sends waves of water even higher into his property.
Up the coast in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, strong winds and a likely tornado were the big stories. A Ring doorbell camera captured the scene as the winds pushed through, and you can really see the power of the storm. Here's another view from along the coast where you can see the twister push water from the ocean deck, even as everything on land is tossed around. And further inland, the evidence is clear. Trees and power poles brought down, homes and businesses damaged. The National Weather Service will survey the damage today to confirm if this was in fact a tornado. Joel Vasquez has more.
I was standing in the house and I heard the train.
But what Pat Doobie was hearing wasn't a train. It was a tornado.
So we got in the safe room, and then when we came out, we saw the damage to the house. It actually, the screen room, the trees that were down, the branches that were all over. Actually, a branch went through my window,
leaving these shards of glass on the floor. Doobie says that the tornado only lasted about 30 seconds, but in that short period, it knocked over mailboxes and lampposts, damaged this garage door, and took this Santa Claus decoration on a ride.
My Santa Claus ended up across the street, and then around the house there's a lot of tree limbs and a lot of debris.
Mike de Blasio actually saw the tornado head towards his house as he was pulling in from work. He says he didn't realize what it was at first.
My trunk went flying open, so the wind was that strong that it just opened my trunk up. And as I got out of the car, I saw it swirling on my front lawn.
This nor'easter's strong gusts damaged areas around the plantation lakes as well, tearing down trees and snapping trunks in River Oaks. De Blasio says he's just happy that everyone in his neighborhood is safe.
Thank God we all were safe and sound, and everything else is just material.
Well, the storm is heading north this morning, bringing heavy rain and winds to the northeast. Overnight, some roads in the Philadelphia area flooded. There are also issues in parts of New Jersey, New York, and New England. Allegra Zamore is in Rhode Island this morning with a look at the situation there.
Well, it seems like the rain is not quite as bad as it was maybe last Monday at this time, but that wind, as you can see here, definitely picking up, and it doesn't show any signs of letting up anytime soon. I'm really trying to hold on to this umbrella, but it might give way in just a few seconds. Rhode Island Energy has trucks staged throughout the area and brought in more than 1,600 workers to respond to the storm. Now, similar to last week as well, officials will be keeping an eye on some of those bridge conditions as well to determine if any of them need to shut down for this morning. Block Island has also canceled all of their ferries this morning.
Well, for more on what this storm is doing next, we turn to meteorologist Brian Vandegraff.
Well, such a wide encompassing storm bringing flooding rains through the deep south, as we showed you, through the Carolinas, even through the mid-Atlantic this morning. The metro Washington area dealing with flooded roadways. The last of the showers here in the mid-Atlantic, but the heavy rain from New York, New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, right on up through New England. We're talking about heavy rains from Maine to New Hampshire to Vermont, but this is all a wet system, not a white system. As this area of low pressure lifts northward, those heavy bands of rain through the evening for the New England area, right on up into Nova Scotia. Overnight into tomorrow, the last of the moisture does pull out, but the winds continue to howl, and it's going to be a rather blustery stretch of weather with colder air moving in on the backside and maybe even some snow eventually starting to trickle in as that cooler air descends upon the lower 48.
Rescuers in Australia saved nearly 300 people from floodwaters in and around the city of Cairns on Sunday. Intense rainfall brought on by extratropical cyclone Jasper left the city almost completely cut off. Local officials warned that another 18 inches of rain could fall in the area throughout the day on Monday. Well, it's been 9 days since deadly tornadoes broke out in Middle Tennessee. Over the weekend, a group gathered to help with removing debris, part of a lengthy cleanup process as storm victims rebuild their lives. Justin McFarland has more.
When looking at the storm damage done on Sylvia Road in Madison, it can be hard to form the words to describe it. But storm victims like Matthew Robinson have a few.
Horrifying, saddening, traumatizing, all that stuff, and it all gets rehashed every time I see it.
Robinson and his family hid in their bathroom as the storm rumbled through. They closed the door less than a minute before their home was ripped apart. Now Robinson and everyone else on Sylvia Road is getting some help from Hands on Nashville. Close to 100 volunteers spent the day sorting debris, and they hope lifting some spirits.
It gives me hope, and it gives this community hope that there are people out here willing to help and give support wherever it is needed.
One of the biggest challenges in the cleanup effort is every storm victim needs something different. Some need new roofs, others need a total rebuild. It's more than what can be done in just a few hours.
This is not just a short-term volunteer effort. This is something we're going to need weeks, months, and years from now.
Years is how long it could take before storm victims like Robinson are able to forget what happened.
It's very surreal. I definitely feel like somebody was looking out for me.
A Florida teenager is being hailed a hero this morning. He made a split-second decision last month to jump in a swift-moving and dangerous inlet, preventing a woman from being swept out to sea. Luli Ortiz has the story.
I gotta jump in.
A fun afternoon for 17-year-old Jacob Thompson at the Boynton Beach Inlet quickly turned tense. Cell phone video captures the moment he jumps off the seawall and into the inlet to help rescue a woman being swept out into the ocean 2 weeks ago.
I just swam as fast as I can to get her, and by the time I got to her, she was pretty, I want to say lifeless, but she was very tired, very worn out and tired from obviously struggling, trying to get out of the water.
Risking his own life without hesitation.
She was really sorry. That's all she was saying the whole time. She was like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I was like, you don't have to be sorry about anything.
He eventually got her to the seawall. That's when two men pulled them out. First responders arrived moments later.
Were you scared?
I think the adrenaline took over. I didn't really have any emotions at that point.
It's unclear why the woman jumped in.
I've heard people say a phone dropped in the water, but I'm not sure 100%. I'm not even sure how long she was in the water.
This rescue highlights the dangers of this inlet because of the fast-moving currents.
If someone is to go into the inlet like what happened in November, it's a race against time to try to help those people, get them out of the water as fast as possible.
That's why Boynton Beach Fire Rescue has one of the largest team of divers ready to respond.
We are able to have a pretty extensive dive team because the water is so unforgiving. Time is definitely our greatest enemy when it comes to water calls. We have a shirt and a hat just from our department.
Some of them honored Jacob for going above and beyond, a moment this high school senior will never forget.
It's kind of like looking up to somebody because that's who I aspire to be one day, a firefighter.
Jacob and his family have a lot to be thankful for this holiday, and they're enjoying the feeling that comes with doing the right thing.
Would you do it again?
I would, 100%.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at ways that you can keep your Christmas tree healthy all season long. And we'll help you better understand those rain forecasts.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, all the rain that fell across the East Coast this weekend, many of you likely heard your local meteorologists use different rain terms. So let's turn to meteorologist John Gum to better understand rain coverage lingo.
Let's talk a little bit about this lingo. First of all, you might hear the term isolated showers and thunderstorms. What does that mean? Well, it means what it sounds like, isolated or a less than 20% coverage across the forecast area. But then we begin to ramp those chances up. Next on the line, we have widely scattered. Widely scattered would mean a coverage of rain and storms anywhere from 20 to 40%. Scattered, meantime, would mean a coverage between 40 and 60%. So your chances increase of seeing some rain with scattered showers and storms in the area. When we get to numerous, we're talking about a coverage of rain between 60 and 80%. So your chances go even higher. And then finally, once we get to widespread, we're talking about a coverage of 80% or more of showers and thunderstorms. So it's rain coverage lingo here for you. The higher that coverage, the better your chance of seeing showers and thunderstorms.
In a new report released today, the climate risk group First Street Foundation identifies areas of the country that people are moving away from because of climate-induced flood risk. Emily Gracie sat down with one of their scientists to find out where these high-risk areas are.
What we ended up finding was that if you look within the same housing market, within the same labor market, people are responding by moving away from high-risk areas at a higher rate historically in the U.S. Census data than what we've seen in the past or what we actually expected to have been occurred. So these are areas that actually lost population from 2000 to 2020 and have a high level of flood risk.
So I was looking at the list of the top 10 areas, climate abandonment areas, and I was really surprised by them.
Yeah, it was interesting to us also because if you go back and look at a lot of these lists that have been coming out around climate risk and future climate havens, and there's these different terms that people are using for where people are going to leave and where they're going to move to. They're all based on sort of these low resolution climate models. Where is it going to be hotter? Where is there going to be more precipitation? But they don't take into account sort of social, economic, political conditions of those communities. But the list that we shared out are sort of major metro areas. So there was a condition that was set there that the county had to have at least 500,000 people, but then they just had to have significant flood risk. And we see that in Harris County, Texas, around the coastal storm surge. We see that in Bexar County, Texas, around San Antonio with the heavy precipitation risk. We see that in Chicago and Will County and around the same risk, the heavy extreme precipitation. If you dig into a county, you look at areas that are more susceptible to flooding versus areas that aren't, we're actually seeing population responses.
Does it cost a lot of money to move, or does it cost more money to stay?
The research clearly shows that when you have this type of risk, people that can afford to leave oftentimes are the first people to leave, and the population that gets left behind generally are people that can't afford to move. So you'll have a more vulnerable population in these communities afterwards.
To find out more about how they conducted this research and the government programs in place to help these residents relocate, head over to our YouTube page and watch the longer version of this interview. We've added a link there where you can also put in your address to find out your climate risk. Just search the National Weather Desk on YouTube. Christmas is 1 week from today, and most people already have their tree up and decorated. Meteorologist Ryan Munn spoke to a gardening expert about what you can do to help it stay healthy beyond the holiday.
Cutting down the Christmas tree. It's an exciting time for many as the holiday season is here. The Maine Christmas Tree Association recommends you feed the tree plain water.
Sometimes people put a little bit of bleach, or sometimes people put aspirin. If you have pets, you got to be careful, because when you're not looking, those pets are drinking out of the tree stand.
The sooner you get the tree in water, the better, as the tree drinks more in the first few days. And you'll want to be mindful of where you place your tree.
You want to avoid putting your tree anywhere where there's a predominant amount of heat. You want to avoid heat registers. You want to avoid wood stoves. If you have something that's like a blower, you're going to want to avoid that too, because it'll just dry them out faster, and too much heat, you can really have a fire hazard. So this is your standard balsam fir. It's the Maine Christmas tree. It's native to this area. This is a Fraser fir. This is the Scotch pine. These guys don't have the same kind of Christmas smell, but they do have a nice scent. This is the white pine. We see these guys all across our state, big, giant, majestic trees. Little softer five clump needle.
There's one more very important thing to keep in mind when maintaining your tree.
You just have to make sure you don't let that water drop below the bottom of the tree, because once that happens, that can seal off once it dries out, and then it won't drink anymore. It won't matter how often you water it.
So, as long as you're mindful of these few things, your Christmas is sure to be merry and bright.
Squirrels, mice, and rabbits are close to earning spots on Santa's naughty list this Christmas. The critters often cause problems for those who decorate their yards during the holiday season. Emily Matisick explains.
Abby Costner of De Pere has a variety of Christmas lights and decorations in her yard.
We like lighting up for Christmas, and I bought these last year, and they were a little expensive, but I really like candy canes. And so I was really disappointed when I saw that they weren't working twice now.
An investigation into why the candy canes weren't working turned up this.
The first time it was chopped up in 3 places. The last time it was just the one.
The wiring between the Costner's candy cane lights had been severed. So she took to social media to see if anyone else in her neighborhood was dealing with a similar situation. The responses started rolling in, and the answers, she said, were surprising.
A lot of people thought it was squirrels and rabbits chewing it.
Officials with the DNR agree to an extent. A wildlife biologist telling Fox 11 it was most likely squirrels or mice taking a bite out of the Costner's Christmas.
When it comes to squirrels or mice, they'll chew on power cords and can create problems. I don't know if it's the texture of the cord or what it is, but yeah, they chew on it, and for some reason it's appealing to them to do that.
The tenacity of the critters literally cutting the holiday spirit short.
Anywhere that cord is accessible or visible, you have that risk of rodents and mice chewing on them.
The DNR says there isn't a magic solution to the problem, but there are some things people can try to do to deter the rodents. Make sure to remove all bird or squirrel feeders from your yard. There are repellent sprays you can put on vegetation like trees and bushes, but it's unclear how effective they'd be on wires, lights, and cords. Sometimes just being outside could help to scare away those unwanted guests.
I just hope whatever it is stops. I like my lights, and I know my husband does not like repairing them over and over, because at some point he'll just say, that's it.
And time now for a short break, but first we take flight over beautiful Alaska.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Thursday marks the official start to the winter season, and cold weather is knocking on the door. So let's take a look at a recent Twitter post from Theron Zahn about winter fun facts you might not know.
How about 3 fun facts about winter? Did you know the Earth is actually closest to the sun in December, even though the days are the shortest in the northern hemisphere? The amount of daylight we get is because of the tilt of the Earth's axis, not the distance to the sun. And ancient Romans actually used the amount of daylight in a day to divide up the hours of the day. During the winter, hours were as short as 45 minutes long. In the summer, they were as long as 75 minutes. And according to the Guinness Book of World Records, the largest snowflake ever recorded fell on a ranch in Fort Keogh, Montana in January of 1887. It measured 15 inches across. A lot of interesting stuff happens during the winter.
For more content like this, be sure to check us out on social media where we post the latest from our meteorologists across the country. You can find us on all your favorite platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Make it a great Monday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.